computer wants me to upgrade to the newest version of Mac operating system. No, please do not do that to me. Oh my goodness. Oh, fun.
Murphy's Law, I think.
I know. So I'm just going to record to the cloud. Hey, everybody, I am happy to be here today. This is April Cox from Self-Publishing Made Simple, and we had a little bit of a connection issue today thanks to some updates that Zoom, I think, has been making on my account. So it looks like we are a go now. I'm going to just make sure that everything is looking good here. Let me also just put myself on Spotlight. All right. So today we have, this is our normal Q&A session. Every Wednesday, I go live to answer your self-publishing questions. And I like to start it out with some sort of little topic to give you a little information about self-publishing. And I couldn't think of a better opportunity to teach you a little about self-publishing than to bring on one of my newest book launches, and my author, Nicholas Aragon, who has been doing some pretty amazing things. So I thought having him share his personal experience and what's going on in his world could help others. And then, of course, we'll open it up to Q&A for both myself and for Nicholas. I'm going to just give you a little overview. Nicholas and I met, gosh, it's probably been a couple of years now. We've been working together. He is a coaching client, and we've been walking through some things with his Curly Crow books and also a new book release that he'll tell you a little bit more about. I'm going to bring Nicholas on and let him share a little bit about his journey. And why don't you start with your background, Nicholas? Let me go and add you to the spotlight here with me.
Sure, happy to. Let me know when you're ready. Awesome.
There we go.
Thanks for putting all this together, April, and thanks for having me. I was excited about this all day long, and so it's great to be here. My name is Nicholas Aragon. I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Born and raised in Albuquerque. I work in higher ed. I have a master's degree in higher ed administration. And that's what I do all day. I help kids kind of get into college, and I oversee a department, so it's more administrative work. But my passion, like most of you, I'm sure, is children's books and writing stories and being creative. And so if I could do that full time, I definitely would. I'm waiting for the day that I can quit my day job and do children's books and publishing as a full-time job. But not sure, if I can count on that right now, but that's the goal.
We'll get you there.
Yeah.
So Nicholas, you had a kind of a unique start to your children's book journey. Would you tell us a little bit about your mom and how all of this got started with Curly Crow?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So if it wasn't for my mom, I probably would not be sitting here. I for sure would not have any books published. And so I'll start by saying that I grew up in the libraries. I grew up reading books. We kind of joke because we were the family that we would always reach the limit every month of checking out too many books from the library, and we were always searching at the end of the month to return books so we can check out more. And that's what I remember about growing up, is just, constantly being in the library and constantly having books around me. And so fast forward to now kind of, as an adult, it was about 2014 where two things happened. We found out that my mom was sick, and right around the same time, she had written the first Curly Crow book and had asked me for help to publish the book. And so absolutely, you know, I even though I didn't know anything about publishing, had no idea where to start and what to do, I could not tell her no. And so we started, you know, embarked on the journey of how to publish a book. And it was interesting, you know, two people never published a book before, didn't know where to start. And so we started kind of going down the road of, well, do we reach out to these big publishing, you know, companies? Do we send in the manuscript? Hopefully somebody picks it up. And then after about, I don't know, a few months or so of kind of going back and forth, we started realizing that, hey, we can do this on our own. We can be an independent author. You know, we can format the book. And so this book that she wrote had kind of sat on her shelf for probably about 4 or 5 years. And so what I mean by that is just, you know, handwritten pencil, colored pencil drawings. And she had this book kind of stapled together, and it was in her room and on her shelf for several years. And so we got the book. We actually got with a company that helped us format the files, right? The interior file and the cover file. And then once we got that far, once we figured out that we needed the 2 files, the rest was kind of easy because Amazon and others kind of make it pretty easy for us to upload and then get the book published. And so I remember the day that we were getting ready to publish the book, and she was excited, and I was really excited, and so the book finally got published, you know, and then we're able to see it up on Amazon, and it was just such a rewarding feeling. I'm gonna hold up the book real quick so everybody can see. So this is the first Curly Crow book, and we kept it all original. So everything in there is her original drawings, the original manuscript, and now so the sad part of the story is we ended up losing my mom in 2017. She was diagnosed with a glioblastoma brain tumor. And so there were several years there where it was really tough and hard to kind of get through that. But I'll tell you, the one thing that kept us going through that time was working on the book and all of her artwork. And it just so happens this is kind of an office where I write and do my work, my children's book work in my house. And we recently hung up all these photos you see behind me. This is all the artwork that my mom did. She left us with about 110 pieces of art and 2 children's books. So she wrote the first Curly Crow book, and then there's another one called The Happily Ever After Story, The Magical Forest. And so, you know, all that to kind of get to the point where, you know, we have now the Curly Crow book was published, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't put it down. I since kind of going through that experience, I developed this passion to continue to create children's books and to continue to create stories. And so, you know, I've kind of decided to continue on the legacy and continue on the work that she started. And so I recreated the character, which looks more like this now. Now I have 6 books published, 6 Curly Crow books in the series, well, 7 including hers. And I'm continuing to work on Curly Crow, and I recently started a new series about my 2 Boston Terriers. So it sparked this passion for writing books that I had no idea that it was inside of me. So
I love it. I really love that you were able to make your mom's dream come true. And, you know, whether it's a bucket list item or just, you know, something that's been that, you know, look at this legacy now with the Curly Crow. So I know that you've been working hard, and we've been working together to like redesign some covers, improve some things. But recently, you and I were chatting, and you've been experimenting with some marketing that I think would be really interesting to others. And I remember you saying to me, I got my first book order. So could you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in your community and how this bulk order came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, wishing that I could do this full time on the weekends and after work and any free time I get, I am out in the community, talking to elementary schools, talking to community centers. And a few months ago, I decided to invest, I guess you would say. I've invested in Curly Crow. I purchased a bulk order, and I decided to go around and donate. So I contacted as many schools as I could. Right, got on the internet, started looking up schools. Obviously, the schools that are local and close to my house. That's where I started. But then I started branching out. And so, 20, 30, 40 schools later, what I was doing was kind of going and calling and even just showing up. Some schools, they won't let you pass the front door, which is great. That's what we want. And other schools are very welcoming and want to have the conversation about author visits and the local author in the community and how can we continue to engage with the kids. And so it was a couple months worth of donating books, right? And so initially I thought, I want to get the books out there. I want people to see them. Wasn't having a very much, I wouldn't say very much. I wasn't having tremendous success on selling books on Amazon and other platforms, right? Because it's difficult to do that. And so getting out to the community and donating these books really paid off. I started getting calls, some right away and some now a couple months later. But started getting calls and saying, hey, do you do author visits? Or, hey, we'd like to buy, a couple sets of books. And what was really exciting is a couple of weeks ago, I got a call from an elementary school in a rural part of New Mexico. Actually, it's probably, a good 3 hours away from where I live, very rural area. And they sent me an email and said they wanted to buy a set of Curly Crow books for every classroom. And they had 23 classrooms. So, 23 times 7 books, it was close to 160-ish books, all hardback books. And so I was able to sell that, to, fulfill that order. And it's just been so amazing to be able to do that. And the feeling that comes along with that is just kind of unexplainable. It's just really awesome. So, yeah, so now I have to.
Could you talk to us a little bit about what is it that you were donating? Were you donating like a set to their library, their children, their librarian for the school?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. Sometimes schools go through the librarians. Sometimes it's an administrator, is what I've found out, and sometimes it's kind of more of the higher ups within the school. And so I started with the librarians. Kind of was like an obvious place to start. But I really found that the administration are the ones, depending on the budget, but I found that the administrators are the ones that kind of control the budget and would make the decisions on whether or not they were going to buy the books. So what I was donating was really what I could afford, right? I wanted to make sure they had a couple books. So I was doing 2 hardback books, and then I went to a local print shop and printed about 150 posters. And so it was a poster that kind of has a picture of maybe 3 or 4 of the books. I picked a really fun illustration from one of the books as the background of the poster, and then I put a QR code in the bottom of the poster. And then when I went to the school, I said, hey, I'd like to donate these books to you, and I'd like to ask that you hang up the poster in a place where parents come to pick up the kids, or where where people can see the poster. And I would say 90% of the schools were very welcoming and wanted to engage. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how I started making the rounds.
I love that. So the price of a couple of books for you, so could be $20 or so. plus
Yep.
whatever it cost you to print your poster, and you're
Yep.
introducing yourself. They're receiving something of value from you, and you're making a connection and building a relationship, which is really something special. So, and you know, a lot of this within the community, I think it does, people start to talk about it, you know, when they see that. And I think that might be how, you know, the school 3 hours away, was that
Right.
one of the ones you had visited?
No.
So they start talking to each other about it,
No.
right?
Yep.
It makes a
Yep.
big difference. I want to show, I'm going to just put myself for 1 second. You also, you sent me some books, which I really appreciated. And you had this, you know, kind of a trifold that you had sent to me as well. Just wondering, is that something that you have found effective? Because this tells the story of you and Curly Crow and the different books that are here, which I find really well done. It's very professional looking as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I got to tell you, I didn't know. So I'm really self-taught on everything that I've created and produced. And Canva has just been such an amazing tool for me. I know a lot of people use that, and I was able to kind of find a template there and create the brochure. And really just went around and kind of negotiated with some print shops and tried to get the lowest price, right? Because it's hard when you're starting out and you're trying to engage and get your books noticed. But the brochure really comes in handy as opposed to like a business card or something like that. You know, like you said, April, you're able to kind of, you know, show if there's other books that you have, or, you know, provide other information about, you know, about yourself or your characters. And so I use that opportunity on the brochure to kind of, you know, let kids and parents get to know the characters in the book and kind of explained, you know, the background of the characters. But the other thing that I also do, try to do on a regular basis, is get involved with the local, like, growers markets, or, you know, artisan markets. You know, I'm sure there's local events where you can kind of set up a table. We have one that charges like $35 a table or a day. I try to get out there every Saturday. And so, you know, I'm printing the brochures and passing out the brochures. And I kind of market that as a book signing event, right? Because I'm there, depending on the growers market, you're surrounded by, you know, folks who could be selling vegetables or could be selling, you know, candles or whatever else. And a lot of times I'm the only one selling children's books. And so that's nice, because you kind of run into these pockets and really with the kids, you know, there's either tons of stuff for kids or nothing at all. And so I try to find the places where there's nothing at all, and then try to get involved there.
Yeah, and I know you also did the balloon festival, right? That was another opportunity for you to get out into the community with an event that's really special. And I have the balloon festival, and I know you showed that as well. So I do have a couple, wait, before we go there though, let me just go in. There's a couple of questions in the chat here. Andrea asks, did you sell your books at a full price or give a group discount? And she also is wondering who produced your posters.
Yeah, so I'm assuming the bulk order to the schools is what we're talking about. So I sold them at full price, and I gave them I think I gave them a 10 or 15% discount. So I said, here's the books at full price, and I'll knock off 15%. And so that's typically how, you know, a bulk order or, you know, something like that, you know, you kind of want to do the 15%. Or kind of meet them halfway. And then with the posters, here in Albuquerque, it's a local print shop. Don Mickey Designs is the place that I use. Obviously the more that you buy, the cheaper it is, but he seems to you got to find the places too that it's like local supports local sort of attitude, and so that seems to be to where you kind of find your own people, right? You kind of find the local shops that want to support other local businesses.
Right. Lois is wondering, did you go into the classroom and do a lesson or a reading to the students? Anything like that so far?
Yeah, so this is something again that I never thought that I would be doing. And so I started the first story the story time that I did was at the Balloon Fiesta Museum. So if you're not familiar with Albuquerque, New Mexico, we're pretty much known for the annual Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta that happens every October. If you haven't been there, it's my favorite thing to do. I talk about it all the time to everybody. So they have a museum, and their museum does what's called Story Time in the Sky, and it's every Wednesday that they invite the community, and its kids could be anywhere from, I don't know, 6 months. Sometimes there's just really small babies up to 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And they invited me to come and read the Balloon Fiesta book or Balloon Festival book. And so I did. And so I thought it went well, and it was something that I kind of had to get used to. But the more that I engaged with elementary schools, the more teachers and the librarians were reaching out and saying, we really want somebody to come in and engage with the students and stuff like that. So it was a few here and there. I think I've maybe done 20 in the past couple of years, which seems like a lot. It feels like a lot. But I started off doing it for free. I started off saying, okay, I'll come and do an author visit and stay a couple hours if you buy some books, right? Or if you let me sell my books there, and try to kind of find, is the school doing a parent night that I can kind of align with, or something where the parents are going to kind of be there maybe at the end of the day or something like that. And so after a few times of kind of doing that for free, I started kind of looking into it a little bit more. And so if you're thinking about doing that, I would say you should charge. I mean, it's your time. And so now I charge $300 for 2 hours, which is like, if you look this up or do research on this, it's really kind of like the very low level, people who don't really have a lot of experience, right? It wouldn't make sense for me to go in and charge the $1,500, or, some of these well-known authors, they can do this for a living, make quite a bit of money at it. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. Now that I've kind of gotten used to it, and there's several elementary schools that will call me. The $300 to them is not a whole lot, and so it works out.
So let me just see here. Do you have paperback books? Victoria asks. And when you go to the artisan or farmer market events, what do you typically charge for your books?
Yeah, so I bring both. I bring paperback and hardback, and I sell the paperback for $12, and I sell the hardback for $18. And people tend to buy the hardback. I'll sell hardback books at those events more than I would the paperbacks. When you think about the profit margin, I guess you make a little bit less on the hardbacks because it costs us a little bit more. But it's still a pretty good. I think selling them for $18 is still, that's still a pretty good price, because that's typically kind of where they're at. So people will pay it.
Yeah. Andrea says it's great to get in touch with the local PTAs. Have you tried that? And also, do you have coloring books?
Yeah, so not a whole lot with the local PTAs. There were a couple schools or a couple relationships that I now have with a couple PTA groups. again, author visits, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And so that's good. I think I'll continue to kind of explore that and kind of find those groups in the local community, because I haven't explored that very much. And yes, I do have coloring books. I did do a version of the book. The first 4 books that I did a story time coloring book. So basically just taking all the color out, but I left the story there. So the kids can kind of color and read this, have the story to read at the same time. The most recent coloring book that I did with the new series about the 2 Boston Terriers, that's a different type of coloring book. It's more of a coloring activity book. And I now have a different designer, thanks to April's
so I
team.
wanted to talk about that too, because when we first got together, you had been working with, kind of a team of your own that you had found, and you had some pain points that were really a problem at that point. Do you want to kind of go into, some of the struggles you had early on, and then let's talk about the new one when we got involved with kind of the 90-day way of doing things with me and my team. Let's talk about where you were before and what the difference is with the new approach that we've been using.
Yeah. So, I found April on YouTube, kind of the hours that we spend on YouTube, kind of teaching ourselves and learning from others. And I am really just so glad that I did find April. I started watching all of the videos and really gained a lot from April's videos. Just continued to learn. When I met April, I think maybe I had 4 books out at that time. And right away when I showed April, she pinpointed out one of the issues I was having, and maybe others have a similar experience where, your first 1 or 2 books where we think it's great, right? We think it's, the cover's great, it looks awesome, but you really got to get advice from other people who are doing it. And so I think that was one of my problems is I was working with an illustrator who does great work, but not at the level that I'm experiencing now. And so some of the pain points is that the covers were not great. And that's really my fault, right? Because we're the ones that kind of give the direction and say, I want this here and I want that there. So not really knowing, I thought, okay, I'll keep the same logo on the covers. But what started happening is all 4 or 5 of my books started looking exactly the same. The covers looked exactly the same. And so when I finally engaged with April and started with mentoring hours and meeting with her on a regular basis, that was the first thing we took a look at was the covers, updated the covers, and now it's a completely different. I mean, I'm getting sales, I'm getting reviews. Prior to that, I was like, man, this is hard. I'm not selling any books. I wonder what's wrong. And so, talking to others who are doing it.
Yeah, I think when we first got together, I think you had come to me saying, what can, I want to sell more books. So let's put some ads together. And I was like, oh, let's back up a little bit before we do that. Let's fix some things. One of the other pain points I know you had mentioned to me is how long it took to get through each of the books and the illustration process. And so if you want to touch on that, and we can, then I'd love to hear you introduce the new book and talk about the process and how it's been to go through that with the team of pre-vetted folks that I've introduced you to here. It seems to be quite an amazing difference.
Yeah, it's definitely night and day. Definitely night and day. So what I was experiencing before was just really long periods of time that would go between contact with the people that I was working with. We'd engage and say, okay, this is my story. Here's the manuscript. Then I wouldn't hear from them for like 3 weeks. then I'd get an update, and then there'd be a couple sketches and kind of inching along the way. But something that should probably have taken maybe a month at the most was taking 2 or 3 or up to 4 months. And I thought that was normal. I really didn't know any better. And so that's, was a huge pain point, was the amount of time that it was taking. And so I was really grateful and excited. I mean, we talk about night and day as far as experience and customer service, and just the level of professionalism with the group that April has and we're able to work with now. Going from that experience where it was a lot of anxiety, I think for me was, you want to get your book published, you're excited about it. But that's the time spent, right? Your time is probably the most valuable thing that we have. And so going into now meeting a different group of illustrators, different group of designers, editors. Going back to needing my covers updated, I also needed my stories edited because, I did a thing where I passed it off to a couple friends and family and educators that I work with, but did not have a professional editor look at it. And so early on, I started kind of picking up on that when I was doing author readings and I was reading my own book out loud. It wasn't really, there was a couple of them that weren't flowing the way that they should flow. And so, back to what April was saying, we kind of backed up, we redid the covers, we sent the manuscripts back through the editor. And now the series started taking shape. It started really kind of becoming what it is today. But now fast forward to the new series and what I'm working on with April, my book, Ruger and Loki Learn Manners. I have a picture of it here. It's inspired by my 2 dogs, Ruger and Loki. But just a complete, I want to say just upgrade in terms of the illustrations, the cover, and from the day that I engaged with the group, with the illustrators, till the time that it was done, I want to say no more than a few weeks. I mean, they were really quick. The communication was great. A lot of times they were waiting on me as opposed to me waiting on them. And so, it was produced really, really fast. The illustrations were exactly what I wanted. And so I can't say enough about that group and what a great job that they do.
Often
and then even
I have people say, April, you talk about the 90-day way. Can you really get a book published in 90 days? And you actually blew that out of the water with this one.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And you had it professionally edited. The formatting and everything is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I would love to give you an opportunity to talk, to share the information where people can get it and how can people support you, because you're just in your book launch period, right?
Right. Yeah. The Ruger and Loki Learn Manners just launched May 1st. And so we're still right with, I guess, the first week or so, just coming out of the first week. So I've just been so excited about this book and the launch of this book. And the people around me have just been really excited about it. We also did an activity book, kind of going back to, is there a coloring book? And we were just blown away at the illustrations that having the problem of which great illustration to use on the cover is a great problem to have, and so we had to kind of work through that and figure out what the cover was going to look like. But Ruger and Loki Learn Manners is just it's a really fun story. It's geared towards helping teach kids how to teach their dogs tricks and how to teach their dogs manners. And so it's a story about 2 twins, Quinn and Finn, who kind of see and meet Ruger and Loki at a park. and they kind of go through this. Hey, they look like strays, and oh, are they nice? And they meet Ruger and Loki, and the twins decide that they're going to help the dogs by teaching them manners. And then they kind of go through this, this fun back and forth of sit, boy, sit, and kind of teaching them, how to behave. So that way, the goal is at the end so that the dogs would be adopted. And not to give too much away, the story does end with the dogs getting adopted. Not by the group or not by the folks who were initially planning on. But it's really a fun story that I know kids now who have given me some feedback on the story, and parents who now have the book they're just in love with the book, and so I'm excited to continue on the series. I've decided to kind of change the subtitles as we go through the series. So Ruger and Loki learn manners. The first one we're looking at is sit, boy, sit. The next one's going to be fetch, boy, fetch, stay, boy, stay, and then there's a few more. And so each story kind of has a specific kind of trick within it, but then also has that kind of family friendly, kind of there's some lessons in there that the kids can connect with. And it's just been such a great experience from start to finish, and to see the book now live and to kind of have this experience and share this evening with you guys is just an amazing thing. So
yeah,
really
and
excited
if
about
you
it.
have Kindle Unlimited, you can download it for free, check it out, give reviews, because we know how important reviews are for an author, especially when things first start. And if you are not in Kindle Unlimited, it's only 99 cents to buy the ebook. That is going to help things move. And I believe you've already hit bestseller on this, but we want to keep it there, right? We want to keep going and continue this. I absolutely love the A+ content. This image over here just makes me smile every time I see it. Great illustration. Yeah. And I love that you used this opportunity in the A+ content to focus on the quality of the illustrations. And this activity book here, again, in the A+ content, guys, you can advertise or cross promote your other books. So this is the activity book that Nicholas also put together. So not only did he release the one book, but he's got two during this period within that 90 days. And this is wonderful. It's got some beautiful illustrations and additional things that can help. And we're also getting into some of the Curly Crow books as well, so that we can help other people discover this series and what's going on with the Curly Crow. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Right.
Story. So lots of information about the values, and I've been following along on your social media and some of the videos that you've been posting with Ruger and Loki, and my gosh, they look so much like they were illustrated. It's amazing.
Yeah, we were really excited about that too. The illustrators got it spot on. We sent them a couple pictures of what the dogs look like, and we couldn't be more happy with the end results of this book, and we're looking forward to the next one. Definitely always looking forward to the next one. Always, kind of writing stories. And we joked about this the other day where, as an author, you probably have, multiple stories that you're working on or that you think about. But the illustrators for this book really made the A+ content easy, right? I mean, the illustrations were there, the content was there. And then, working with April and your team, you kind of learn how to put it together in a way that looks good and gets the message across. So the website that I have also is curlycrow.com. So I have all the books on curlycrow.com, and so if you're interested in kind of looking at what the website looks like and how I've put that together, you can check that out too.
Awesome. So we had one other question here. What is your advice for introduction getting into the schools? Would you mind kind of just giving us your elevator pitch and tell us how you approach it when you walk into a new school?
Yeah, absolutely. So I introduced myself as a local author, as a dad, right? I introduced myself as someone who lives in the community with them, and my mission is to help improve literacy in elementary schools, and so that's actually, I go in there with a very honest approach to. The whole reason I really started this was to create a character, create a story that kids would fall in love with, so that they would pick up a book, right? And so I think people connect with that, and at least the schools that I've been connecting with is there's so much social media, there's so many screens, there's so many, it's almost like the book is like, kids don't even know what a book is. It's kind of like the newspaper, right? Where it's like, this is kind of going away. Well, there's still a lot of us out there who love a book that you can hold. It's so important for kids to read. And so my message is, it doesn't matter what you read, find something you're interested in and read about it. And so that's kind of my approach to it. I offer to donate a book to get the book in the school. And then I ask them if, what their needs are, are they looking for books to purchase? Are they looking for authors to come in and do presentations? And then, depending on the feedback, I kind of know how to respond from there, but just kind of going in there with an honest approach to, to what your goals are. And so, you can't beat a book. And I think that it's an important message that we all should continue telling. I tell the kids that reading is exercise for your brain. Some of them look at me like I'm crazy, but it really is. The studies show the cognitive development, right? I mean, reading from an early age, if you make that a habit and you continue reading, the likelihood of you being successful or going on to college is much greater than if you didn't read. So that's kind of my message.
So Lois says, do you cold call or do you go call ahead of time and ask for an appointment?
So both. Both. Sometimes I'll get answer machines, or I'll leave a message and no one will call back. And so what I tend to do is I will set out with like 5 schools maybe, and if I had already called ahead, then that's, I'll kind of approach that, usually that kind of results in, hey, stop by at this time and I'll be able to meet you. But for schools that maybe I didn't get a hold of, or maybe I just decided not to call at all, I'll make kind of a list and I'll just get their address and I'll just start driving by and hopping in and introducing myself. Because people are busy. A lot of times people are busy, and I'm finding that it's not that they don't want to call you back. It's just that it's not really a priority for them. So we got to find kind of creative ways to kind of meet people where they're at. And so I do both.
It's a pleasant surprise too, because I imagine that they do get calls of people trying to sell them things, or, hey, I want to get, want you to take me in and let me and do author visits or buy some books or things like that. So when you're walking in and you're showing them that, no, you're caring, you're contributing something, you're giving them something, and even asking about their needs. What are your needs? What are the things that this school needs that I can help with? I think that's a really an approach that we should all consider, and really just getting into what can I do for the community and for the schools that need this. I'm looking at the comments here. It says, Victoria says, I'm getting one. Karen, so well done. Love it. The illustration is amazing, Dania says. Karen, your website is great. What did you use to create it? So let's talk to us about this website. I just popped on there as well. It is beautiful, very well
Yeah.
done. So if you're including your website along with, in your email or in your brochure, wow, it does an amazing job at actually giving a great look at this. So we've got a pop-up here wanting us to subscribe, get a free ebook, join the Curly Crow Club. And then I'm just going to go to the top here. Curly Crow, our story. So you talk about your backstory, which is really nice. And look at all of these beautiful Curly Crow books and the new one with Ruker and Logie. Love it. This is amazing. You share a little bit about how this has come together?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a little bit of a journey to get to where it is now. I actually started off in a completely different, right? I wish I would have met April sooner, and other folks who have kind of guided me and helped me to be where this is at today. But I actually started off with a WordPress site. So when I decided that I was going to make this a business, I actually went through LegalZoom. I filed for an LLC. I got my domain, right? I was really happy that curlycrow.com wasn't taken already. And so after I got the domain, I was all in at this point, right? Like I had helped my mom through all this. I was at this point, I was decided that this is what I was doing. And I had, I had a lot of plans and goals moving forward. So in addition to the LLC, I also filed for a trademark. I think a trademark, I needed 3 books. You need 3 books to be able to file for a trademark. And so Curly Crow is a trademark, but I started out with a WordPress thinking, okay, it was a friend of a friend who said, I have a friend who will build you a website. Now, I should have done my own research because I know now that Wix is free. I know there's some other places that are free and stuff like that. So I actually made the mistake of paying somebody a lot of money to build a WordPress site. Then that mistake continued to haunt me throughout the year because then there was charges for updating the WordPress site. And anytime I needed to make a change, even if it was like a small change, I needed to contact somebody, the guy who built it, who because I didn't have the time to go in and learn WordPress. So I kind of, got to the point where I was frustrated with that whole process and started doing my own research. And the website that I have now is a Shopify store. It's a Shopify website. And so I think Shopify is $300 a year. So there is a cost to the website that I have, but I think it's well worth it. I mean, it has everything you need built in, has your email marketing built in, it connects to all your social media. And going back to kind of being self-taught, when I started this, I had never really been on social media before. So like 3 years ago, I never had a Facebook account, never had a social media account. Had no interest in any of that really. The extent was like Google and YouTube maybe was the extent of my internet browsing, but I got to the point where I started learning about Shopify and about how there's other products that can kind of be connected. And when I first started, the artwork that you see behind me, and the reason why I chose Shopify is because it integrates with some print-on-demand providers. And one of them is Printify, and Printify has canvases, art canvases, and other things that you can sell art. And so when Curly Crow first started, it was Curly Crow books and art. So my idea was that I would sell children's books and I would sell the artwork. Well, after a year and a half into it and not really selling any artwork at all, I really had to make the decision, do I continue doing this, or, do I make a change? And so I decided to not sell the artwork. I kind of made the shift and went full-fledged with the children's books. And I'm really glad that I did. It's I'm not really an artist. It was part of the legacy and wanting to kind of keep everything together. But I couldn't be happier with the Shopify store. But 2 years ago, having to kind of go in and learn how to do a website, learn how to have a Facebook page and Instagram page and stuff like that. It's really the key, I think, for me is just being consistent with everything, kind of carving out an hour a day or whatever you can do, 2 hours a day, 30 minutes a day, posting on social media, making small updates to your website, working on your book. That's kind of how I approach every day. I'll try to carve out specific time and just be consistent. And I've been pretty happy with the way things are.
That's awesome. And have you found the Shopify platform something that's easy for you to learn and use?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is super easy, user-friendly. Again, I learned everything on YouTube of watching a few people view Shopify, teaching videos, and it's really a very user-friendly platform, and they have support. One of the big things too is I can pick up the phone and call Shopify day or night. Somebody's there to help me. The other thing I'll mention too about Shopify is they're also a domain provider. So I used to, when I first started, I purchased my domains from Network Solutions, I think.
Right.
And at first it was like $9, right? $9 a year for a domain. Then the second year it jumped up to $35 a year for a domain. And so watch out for that. But I learned after having a Shopify store that I could transfer my domains to Shopify. And Shopify is the domain provider, so they do everything you need as far as your domain can be done in Shopify.
Nice. Go ahead, Lois. I see you raised your hand. You have a question?
Yeah, I want him to spell that for me. Are you saying Shopify?
Correct. Yep. SHOPIFY.
Oh, IFY.
I think I got that right.
Yeah. Is it .com? Shopify.com?
Shopify.com. Yep.
Okay.
I just
Thank
put the link there too. Awesome. This has been really insightful, and I'm so grateful that you came here with us today, Nicholas. I think that it's wonderful for people to see what's happening and all of the things you're doing with Curly Crow. I can't wait to continue to see where the series goes. It's exciting and it's inspiring too, especially now that you're starting to really crank out these books. I'm just really excited.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. Thank you for inspiring our other authors. And does anybody have any other final questions for Nicholas before we let him go?
Keep up the great work.
Oh, amen to that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you all so much for allowing me to be here. And April, many thanks to you for everything that you do. You're helping a lot of people, and it's really awesome to be a part of that. So thank you all for your time. Appreciate being here.
A couple more questions here. Hands went up. AJ, go ahead. Did you have a question for Nicholas, or was it for me?
Yeah, it was for Nicholas, actually. Congratulations on your success. So I have a book that I'm working on, and at first it was too long. So, but once I had to do a lot of editing to it, I kind of noticed that maybe I have a series, because some of the stuff I was taking, I was like, oh, I could write a book about him in this subject or this subject, because it's about an alligator who doesn't like math. But I was trying to point out the subject matters that he was good at. And so now I'm getting all these other ideas for, oh, maybe I could talk about him in, when he learns history or something like that, different little subjects. Yeah. So what my question is, and I'm still on book one, of course, but now that I'm looking at this story as a series, I'm curious, since you had, I don't know, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch the entire presentation at the beginning, but I did, I know that you said that your mother has started some of these books as well, but I don't know if it was originally written as a series or not, and if so, if not, how did you come about making it a series, and how can you tell? I'm trying to figure out a way to say this. How can you tell if you have a following for the series itself? Like, like if you had a, I don't know how to say this, but if you had like a following for just that series of books itself, how do you find out? Like, I know, for example, if it was a product, some other product, we could say, oh, they keep buying the same products every month or something like that. But with books, how do you know, if you have a group that's dedicated to the series itself?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And going back to your series, I think it's a great idea to break up the different ideas to make the books within the number of, words, the word count that you want. And April and her team really kind of helped me to kind of hone in on how many words each book should be, to kind of direct to what age group we're looking to kind of target. But just to kind of, since you missed it, my mom was the one that created the very first Curly Crow book, and then I kind of picked it up from there. And so when I first started, it was really just a passion of, hey, I loved it. I helped her publish it. I fell in love with that. And I wanted to get, a couple stories that were really kind of personal experiences for me. Curly Crow Goes Camping was the first one that I wrote. And then, my character is native to a specific area. And so, my next one was Curly Crow Goes to School. And there was a little overlap, right, in the story. So kind of the same character, the same location. And so I think, the way I look at it is there's a series there's a type of series that needs to be read in order, right? Like you need to read the first book before you read the second, or else you're not going to understand the third, and so on. But my books can be read in any order. And I think kids' books, I think you kind of want to do it that way, where it doesn't matter if they pick up the third book or the first book, it's still going to be, a good experience. And so as far as the following, I think I'm still trying to figure that out. It's nice where you can put up a book and the response is sales, right? You're making sales. And so I think that would definitely tell you if there's people that are out there that like your book. But the other thing too is like, maybe what's the message, or is there a specific kind of niche that you're kind of targeting? And then to kind of create like, launch teams or groups of people that you can share your stories with and just kind of see how people respond. Because you might be going down a path that, maybe you got to get some feedback, and based on that feedback, you start going a different direction. But that would be my advice, is to just continue writing, and maybe the next book is better than the previous book. But that's kind of been my experience.
Thank you so much. I mean, of course, we know with Harry Potter, you can tell when there's a following, you see the lines outside, but with picture books, like, how do you know?
Yeah. So to really, I will just add, AJ, that when you write more books about the same characters and becomes a series, that is when people fall in love with the characters, right? You've got cute characters. We all try to make our characters lovable and learn something or teach something. So it is only when we really invest in developing that character through a series of picture books that I think you start to build that following that you're really looking for. Great point.
That's a really great point. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Nicholas, so much for your time. I am going to stop the live session here. And for those of you that I do have an advanced Q&A right after this one. So for those that want to ask me some questions, you can still hang out here, but I'm going to go ahead and stop the live stream. If you are on YouTube and you're live with me now, you can feel free to come over and join us at aprilcox.com/Zoom. It will redirect you over to this session. Thank you for joining